Good evening. Welcome to the Black Conservative Voice with David Colbert here on the CTM News Network, the voice of truth. Well, there's a lot going on in the news today. First of all, I want to draw attention to an incident that happened to a Trump supporter, and I believe it was in Oklahoma. Could be wrong, but I believe it was it was in Portland, Oregon. As Trump ramps up for 2020 election, Drew Duncombe, what do they call the Black Rebel, is a Trump supporter. Last week, he was stabbed by Antifa in Portland. It is updated that his assailant has been arrested and charged, but he's not standing down. He has continued to stand up against Antifa thugs. Thank you, Drew Duncombe, for standing up and continue to move forward, because it is very important that the fight continues on. They want to stop you, but I thank you for standing strong and continue to move forward, as all of us conservatives are doing. Okay, moving on. The top story I want to look at today is a story that was done by Tucker Carlson of Fox News. In this report, he was talking about Big Tech. Big Tech censors COVID video featuring doctors. Now, I saw this video myself and also posted this video onto Facebook. And the video was probably taken down within a few hours. Social media giants pulled the video video of doctors in lab coats talking about the coronavirus research, and they hid it from the public. So much going on right now in the news. New developments from every direction. Much of it seems unrelated. A lot of it is shocking. Here's the way to understand it. In an election year, everything significant that happens is about the election. So all of these developments are in fact related. And here's the core question in every election. Who is up and who is down? As of tonight, the president they say is down double digits in the polls, and there's not much question about why that is. Americans are miserable. They're stuck at home. They are fearful. Millions of them don't have jobs, if you believe that garbage. The percentage of Americans who believe our country is headed in the right direction and has dropped off the cliff since this spring. Not coincidentally that when a strange new virus from China began to spread among our population, the rise of COVID-19 in the United States tracks almost precisely the decline of Donald Trump's approval numbers. And the political lessons for this is clear. The more damage the Wuhan coronavirus does to America, the harder it is for the president to get reelected. Of course, I don't believe that. Now, I don't know exactly where all those are, but of course, Fox has its issues too. So the Democratic Party has every incentive to keep Americans afraid of off balance for the next 97 days. They plan to do that. That is their entire campaign strategy. It's the only thing they're running on. The only thing. Yesterday's in the news, the site Breitbart posted a video of a group of physicians giving a press conference about medical advances in the fight against COVID-19. Some of the news that doctors delivered was hopeful, because there is hopeful news to report. 17 million people saw that video. The president retweeted it. This enraged the Democrats. Any scientific advancement that reduces the suffering of Americans in an election year is a threat to Joe Biden's campaign. So they decided to pull that video off the internet. 15 years ago, that would have been absurd. You couldn't have done it. This was America. You weren't allowed to ban a news story just because it might hurt your candidate's poll numbers. In any case, it was impossible. There were too many news outlets No one could control them all. That's how that has changed. While the rest of us were sleeping, or the case of so many of our senators taking payoffs from Google, a tiny number of left-wing corporations took virtually complete control of the news and information in this country. Now, if Democrats want to erase politically inconvenient news, fewer than 100 days before an election, they can do that, and they did do it. Big tech censored science. They pulled the video of doctors and lab coats talking about the coronavirus research. We're going to move on specifically. There was a doctor by the name of Dr. Stella Emanuel, a physician who came from the area of Nigeria. She had her schooling there. And she said clearly on this video, there is a cure for COVID. There's a cure for COVID. It's called hydrochloroquine, it's called zinc, it's called Zithromax. And it's time for the grassroots to wake up. Thank you, Dr. Emanuel. And she says, I say no, we're not going to take this any longer. We're not going to die. Tucker Carlson said Dr. Emanuel's claim is harder for us to endorse. Is hydrochloroquine part of the cure of coronavirus? We don't know the answer. Yes, we do know the answer, because when President Trump passed it through his lips, there's no way possible that they would ever accept that as a cure for COVID-19. Because he opened his mouth and said that hydrochloroquine could be the cure. We do know, Carlson goes on to say, many frontline physicians around the world have prescribed hydrochloroquine and continue to prescribe it. We've interviewed some of them on the show. The drug appears to show promise in treating some early stages patients. That is the good news. Now, this doctor, Dr. Emanuel, says her claims are that she has cured 350 patients out of her clinic here in the Houston area with hydrochloroquine, zinc, and Zithromax. The science of hydrochloroquine is not settled either way. Well, yeah, of course it's not settled as far as the radical left goes. They don't want to settle it because that would mean that President Trump was right when he said it first. Unfortunately, reality is not the point of politics. Winning is the point of politics. So they scrubbed that video. Here's more of it. Okay, we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back at you with the rest of the story. This is Black Conservative Voice here on the CTM News Network, the voice of truth. Welcome back. Tucker Carlson goes on to say, and he quotes the words of Dr. Emanuel, my message to Dr. Fauci, she said, is when was the last time you put a stethoscope on a patient? That when you start seeing patients like we see on a daily basis, you will understand the frustration that we feel. You need to start feeling for American people like we, the frontline doctors, feel. You need to start realizing that they are listening to you and they are going to listen to you. You've got to give them a message of hope. Then Carlson goes on saying, oh, that clip enraged them. Because above all, you must never mock the sainted Dr. Fauci. Under no circumstances can you note that Dr. Fauci, who also, by the way, gave the Wuhan lab $3.5 billion from our illustrious President Obama in 2015. Dr. Fauci is, in fact, very often hypocritical buffoon who refuses to admit what he clearly doesn't know. If you say that out loud, they will cancel you. Fauci is too useful to Biden campaign, so until November, Fauci's word must be law, even when it doesn't make sense. Criticize Fauci and you will disappear from the internet. Yes, I've heard that before. Now the thing with Dr. Fauci, even Fauci himself said you don't need to wear masks. So why are we all running around here wearing masks? He said that. Did you see him showing up in a mask? Tell me he's not controlled by the left and the Democratic Party. And so, Dr. Emmanuel disappeared from the internet. And then Google's countless toadies online did the cleanup work, the ugly stuff. The Daily Beast attacked Dr. Emmanuel for the crime of getting her medical degree in Africa. Huh, give me a break. African doctors are very intelligent, they're very good, and they've cured and they've healed people in this country as well. So that will not hold water when you come to this country, because we have a lot of African doctors here. Now, can you believe this? In a country that they're claiming racism against African Americans, why is the Daily Beast insulting Dr. Emmanuel, who is from our native land? And that's not racist? Where are people calling the Daily Beast racist? Well, I am. They're racist. But they're controlled by the Democratic Party, of course. So political correctness is fine when the Daily Beast most of the year. But this is the election season, so Dr. Emmanuel must be destroyed. Now I'm going to tell you something else again. Now this is upsetting me to no end. What happened to hate speech? What happens to hate speech when it comes to people speaking about our president? Well, he's a racist. He's a Klansman. He's this, that, and the other, when it's already been proven that the Democratic parties were directly linked to Donald Byrd, who was a recruiter for the Ku Klux Klan in the early part of last century. And yet they're constantly pushing this towards Trump. There's no proof in that, and they can research it, do whatever they want. They will not find no facts in this garbage as far as trying to say our president is a racist at all. Censorship is always wrong. Censorship does not improve public health. In fact, it threatens public health. The authorities responsible for containing this pandemic clearly have failed. We know that some of them are decent people. They're trying their best. But despite their efforts, they've frequently been wrong. We know that because it's on tape. You have to listen to the news, people. Even though I'm not crazy about some of it, a lot of times these people that you're hearing saying different stuff, you can pull a tape up and they're saying exactly the opposite a few weeks or a few days earlier. So what we desperately need now, as we always do in a crisis, is especially in a crisis that is it can be solved in science, is more voices in conversation, not fewer. Want proof? Here's the Surgeon General. Remember when he told us this? Dr. Jerome Adams, U.S. Surgeon General. What the World Health Organization and the CDC have reaffirmed in the last few days is that they do not recommend the general public wear masks. They do not recommend that the general public wear masks. Wearing a mask improperly can actually increase your risk of getting disease. And then Tucker Carlson goes on to say, oh, so masks are dangerous, right? Yes, that wasn't very long ago. Now masks are mandatory and the cops will nab you if you're not wearing one. What does this tell us? It tells us what we already knew. If we were honest, which is the scientific consensus changes. That's the point. As we learn more of our conclusions change, legitimate scientists understand that. You know, I've had people that are afraid because they're wearing masks because they have asthma and they don't want to get... Do you realize that that mask is actually causing problems to your lungs just as bad as the asthma that you're trying to avoid through medication? It is causing you more health problems to wear the stupid mask. So take it off and breathe. Okay, we're going to take a short break right now. We'll be right back at you here in a moment at the Black Conservative Voice here on the CTM News Network, the voice of truth. Welcome back. You're watching the Black Conservative Voice with David Colbert here on the CTM News Network, the Voice of Truth. Here's a bit of news that you might like to hear. Says the Democratic Party thought, well, we could stop the Republican National Convention and they won't be able to stop us. The Democratic Party convention set to be held in Milwaukee. The police agencies have backed out of the DNC security agreement for Milwaukee convention. Some of it is over the fact that they cannot use things that will control crowds, such as rubber bullets, tear gas, and things like that, if people get out of hand. Over 100 police agencies have pulled out of the DNC convention security in Milwaukee. Some of them also pulled out over the concerns of the coronavirus. Wisconsin, after a directive to stop the use of tear gas and pepper spray, Christina Coleman reports. Democratic Party officials said on Wednesday that they're aiming for a safe and secure national nominating convention next month in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, after police agencies pulled out of the security agreement for the event. Let me tell you something, Democratic Party. Black Lives Matter does not like you either. Neither does Antifa. And if you go there, you're not going to be able to save yourself for the same protests that you see coming against Donald Trump through your own cronies in the Democratic Party. Here's a quote. As plans evolve due to the ongoing pandemic, we will continue to work and local law enforcement officials in coordination with the United States Secret Service to ensure the 2020 Democratic National Convention is a safe and secure event in Milwaukee. Residents and everyone involved with our convention. Convention Press Secretary Tim Curl told Fox News. Well, how are you going to have a safe event? You want to defund the police. You got police now calling in sick because they're tired of being treated like garbage by the Democratic Party and those Antifa and Black Lives Matter people who are pretending to be for Black lives. They're not for Black lives. They're for Marxism. And I told you on last night's program, look at their charter. They want to close prisons down. That's who they really want to close. They want to close the prison. They want to get rid of all law enforcement because they're lawless individuals. They're Marxists. They're communists. They want to control you by the government. That is why they're trying their best to stay behind the Communist Democratic Party, also known as the Democratic Slavery Party. Curl's statement comes one day after more than 100 police officers pulled out of the security agreements to send personnel to next month's Democratic National Convention over orders that would prevent officers from using certain crowd control measures during potential protests. The police departments were part of the collective outside agencies poised to send officers to secure the event, which will run from August 17th to 20th. Well, guess what? They're going virtual. Now, Vice President Joe Biden is talking about coming out, and anyway. Yeah, they want him out there for sure, yeah. If he gets out there, let's pray for him, people, because he may not get out of there. The Civilian Oversight Commission issued a directive last week in response to the use of tear gas. This is in Milwaukee, during crowds protests following the death of George Floyd, a black man who died while in custody of the police in Minnesota, of course, who was also high on fentanyl, which everyone wants to leave out of the news. Not saying he wasn't killed, but he was already high. His opportunity for death was a lot easier because he was already in a very bad health condition. Floyd's death in late May sparked protests and unrest. That was actually very brief protest. All it did was open up a door for Black Lives Matter, which didn't just start in May. It started way back in 2013 by the LGBT. So if you love the LGBT, great. Stick with Black Lives Matter because that is the agenda they're trying to push. Have you ever noticed that they kept the abortion clinics and the liquor stores open during these shutdowns? Democrats are in trouble. They keep pushing the wrong narrative, and they're going to end up in some bad stuff because they're pushing against an organization that's worse than them. These people are actual Marxists, trained communists. So you go ahead, stick with them, Democratic Party. They're going to kick your butts out of the way. The convention, which was to be held in Wisconsin Center in downtown Milwaukee, has been scaled down to mostly a virtual confab. While former Vice President Joe Biden will accept his presidential nomination in person. Go ahead and accept it, Joe Biden. To tell you the truth, I don't really believe he's going to be nominated. Matter of fact, I believe something going to happen to him, and then Hillary Clinton's going to rear her ugly head again. Something to that matter is going to happen. Watch and see. Joe Biden has been on the edge for I don't know how long. He's got some emotional issues. He has dementia. There are people, the doctors that actually verify his behaviors, the way he's carrying on. He already has dementia. His mental capacity is already diminishing. How's he going to run a country? Okay, we're going to take a break, and we're going to be right back at you in a moment here on the Black Conservative Voice with David Colbert. Welcome back. You're watching the Black Conservative Voice here on the CTM News Network, the Voice of Truth. If you want to advertise, you want to sponsor us, please check out the message in the top of the screen or at the bottom of the screen and call and contact our offices to become a supporter of Black Conservative Voice here on the CTM News Network. We need your support. We need to continue to move forward. Right now, we're reaching anywhere in the neighborhood of 10,000 to 50,000 viewers. Now, President Trump in recent days is very confident. He is confident in the polls that are going on. Of course, not the fake news polls, and those polls that they're trumping up, trying to make President Trump look like he's losing. People are not stupid. Are you going to be putting people in the office who's going to take jobs away from minorities, who are going to destroy the state of Texas by trying to close down our oil fields and end fracking here in Texas? Are you going to support that, Texas? Let me hear you. No! If President Biden or Vice President Biden is elected, he is going to raise your taxes. He is going to increase regulations to small businesses, probably putting a lot of black-owned businesses out of business. President Trump stated we have polls that show that he is leading amongst every swing state. They tried to lie about his polls in the old days, and back in 2016, but President Trump has become very intelligent on looking at the polls and things now. He's watching them for himself instead of accepting what they're saying. And like I told you before, the poll that judged 25 out of the last 27 presidents puts President Donald J. Trump at 91% popularity voting. Meanwhile, approval for his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic falls to a new low. President Donald Trump gestures Monday before departing to North Carolina facility that supports the manufacture of key components of a COVID-19 vaccine candidate. Now, yes, there's lots of vaccine candidates, but me, myself, I believe Dr. Emmanuel, and I believe that she is telling the truth. In the very beginning, if you notice, there were a lot of people. There was one guy who was on his deathbed, and they treated him with hydrochloroquine and several other medications, and he was healed. He was on his deathbed. They were saying he couldn't breathe and was about to die. So to say that these drugs are ineffective is a bunch of malarkey. President Trump on Monday sounded upbeat about the state of his re-election campaign, and he's talked up his team in internal polls and dismissed surveys that put Democratic challenger Joe Biden ahead of him. He says, we have polls that show me leading in almost every swing state and substantially in all other states by even more than I won in 2016, Trump said during a news conference in North Carolina. And once again, I want to shout out to the walkaway campaign of the Democratic Party people who are walking away from that party because they realize that they don't want to be on the side of the party who tried to keep African Americans in bondage. And unfortunately, with some of them, he's still keeping them in bondage. They're keeping them in bondage through welfare programs, through entitlement programs, all these things that cripple us and cause us not to think. Because all we need to do in this free country is think. We can create our own businesses, we can get degrees, and I know people in this city of Houston who went out and have got doctorate degrees. So we are a very intelligent people. So don't sell yourself short and keep taking a check from the government just to prove that you are happy to stay in slavery. Because that's exactly what it is. Okay, the president comments also during the trip to Fulfilm Dissident Biotechnologies Innovation Center in Morrisville, North Carolina, are similar to what his new campaign manager, Bill Stevens, said on Friday. Stevens said pollsters keep getting it wrong, as he projected confident about the state of the White House race. In Real Clear Politics, average polls focus on top swing states. Biden leads 6.2% points as Monday. There's more spirit now than there has even been for my campaign, President Trump says in 2016. He said on Monday, there's more today because what we've done, nobody has ever done. Trump cited accomplishments such as cuts in taxes and regulations. You're watching the Black conservative voice here on the CTM News Network, the voice of truth. As Donald Trump sees it, progress in the fight against coronavirus can be described in several ways. Big, tremendous, exciting, encouraging, significant, incredible. Others might use not nearly enough. Here's what the CEO of Apple, Amazon, Facebook, and Alphabet will say at Wednesday's antitrust hearing. Here's a shocking exchange of axios just had with President Trump. There's a Manila, I don't even know what that is. A mania stock in stocks, but investors face an even greater danger, warns Nobel Prize winning economist. Trump drops plan to throw out first pitch at Yankee Stadium, but the Yankees reportedly haven't even invited him. What kind of foolishness is that? Never liked the New York Yankees, and I think I never will anyway. But I will tell you this. A vote against President Trump is a vote for former Vice President Joe Biden, who wants to stop you from owning shares in the stock market. He wants to destroy this country's economy. He wants to destroy the stock market. He wants to do what every socialist wants to do. He wants to take away your rights to own your own business, to control your own money, and to hold you in bondage to the Democratic Party, which should be the Progressive Party or the Demonic Party, whatever you want to call them. But they're not supposed to be the Democratic Party because African American people, I'm going to tell you once again, you keep standing with the Democratic Party, they are the ones that stood on the side of slavery. They stood on the side of segregation. They voted against you when the rights came up to vote in Congress. They voted against black American men to vote in elections. And in 2064, and I'm going to keep harping on it, change your name, Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party voted 100%, might well say, against the Civil Rights Act of 1964. They voted against it. How can you stand with a party that wants to keep blacks enslaved? And when I say enslaved, I'm talking about enslaved mentally. As I told you through Marcus Garvey before, he said you're going to continue to be enslaved if you don't take control of your mind. So we as black people need to take control of our mind. We need to educate ourselves and get on the side of those who are trying to bring us up, not those who are trying to take us down. namely the Democratic Party. Well, once again, I want to go ahead and close. I thank you for joining me here on Black Conservative Voice. My name is David Colbert, here on the CTM News Network, the voice of truth. Once again, I want to say to you, God bless you, God bless America, and God bless the world. Until next time, this is David Colbert saying so long.